Hey guys, welcome to day 4 of our 5-day challenge. We are super excited. Woohoo! You guys are still here sticking with us. That is awesome. We are almost there. 5 days to a VA. Whew. You guys are doing awesome. So this whole week, I hope it was really helpful and helping you get really clear about how you were spending your time, what a virtual assistant can do for you, what your preferences are for a virtual assistant, and even what company you should go with for hiring a virtual assistant and actually submitting the inquiry. The reason why all of that is important before you start the hiring process is because you want to get really clear about who it is that you should have working for you and about what you should be delegating them, and also the first things that you should be delegating them. I think a lot of people go into this process and they get overwhelmed and they end up with the wrong person because they haven't gone through the initial steps of getting clear about how they're spending their time, what they need to delegate, who they want to be doing it for them, and also what company actually matches their preferences. And so I really hope that this has been helpful so far, but now I hope you have kept your hyperdrive hats on because we are jumping in and going for it. Today is the second part of the hiring process, the actual interviewing of your candidates. So I know some of you might not have heard back from the companies you reached out to or the individuals you reached out to yesterday, but that is totally a-okay because there's actually some groundwork that we need to do before we start the actual interviews. So we've got interview prep for you, and if you're playing catch up, still that is okay too. You can jump in however and whenever you want, but we've established the steps like this for a reason, so I'd probably recommend going through each and every video before you jump into this, but you can always reference this video back when you're ready to actually do the interviewing process. So it'll be up for the rest of this week, so just make sure that you are looking at it and making sure that you are clear about this next step, and then that you've heard back from the company so you can actually begin scheduling the interviews today, for today. So yes, that's how it is hyperdrive speed, because you are actually doing it all today, and by the end of the day, you should have a selected virtual assistant that you can hire tomorrow. Oh man, this is going to be super exciting. Okay, so once you hear back from the company or the companies that you reached out to, you are going to schedule the interview for today. You're just going to email them back and say, would you be available to meet today? That would be the top preference. If they're not available, try to do it soon so that you can move on to the next step. But before you jump on that call with them, and I do recommend that you do a call with them because then you'll get to know them a little bit better and you'll get to also check off your preferences, but make sure that it also matches what your preferences are for a VA. If they don't have to be fluent in English, if they don't have to have some of those boxes checked, then you could just do an email interaction with them. But once you have scheduled that call, do not jump right on with them because there's actually going to be some stuff in the packet today that is pre-interview. So if you open up the packet, you'll see a pre-interview list of questions. And so you'll be able to get really deep into the tasks that you have that you want to be delegating to that virtual assistant to see if they're really right for you based on the actual tasks that you'll be handing off. And you can say, I'm going to start with this task, but we're also going to move probably into these other tasks, or these are the things that I see on the horizon. You don't have to have all of them, but at least know the main ones that you're going to want to be outsourcing to this virtual assistant. Also, and that's going to include the expectations for the task, the parameters for the task, the deadlines for the task, the specific timelines for how long that task is going to take in each mile marker. Like, you can get as detailed as you want. I recommend you get as detailed as possible. What software you're going to be using for the task, different things like that. And then you're going to get into the expectations for a virtual assistant, an ideal virtual assistant, and make sure you identify what your non-negotiables are and what you want to be more flexible about. What do you want to keep in mind during that interview? How will you know if it's the one? And what questions do you want to ask during that interview? Do you want do you want to have them complete an actual practice project before you move into a full-time role, or different things that you are wanting to keep in the back of your mind? Some of the things are non-negotiable. Make sure you keep those in. And some of the things you're willing to be a little bit more flexible if you find the right candidate. So make sure you circle that, note those things, put that all on page 1, just write it all down, and then during the interview process itself, flip to page 2 and keep page 1 right in front of you so you can reference it, but on page 2, you're actually going to be writing down their responses to those questions or to those qualifications. You can make notes on there about how you felt about them. So page 2 is going to be really useful in actually writing down the things during that interview. And we recommend that you print out 1 page per interviewee. So per candidate that you're interviewing. So then you can write down as much as you want or as little as you want, but on each page for each candidate. And we've given you some room to write down their name and the interview time. So it's kind of nice. At the end of the day, I would make a note about which one really stood out to you, what your favorite candidate was. And tomorrow we'll jump right into the hiring of that candidate and the onboarding process for them. And we'll also give you some tips for ongoing success with your virtual assistant. And don't worry, if none of these candidates meet your needs or you just don't feel right about any of these candidates, there are plenty of assistants in the sea. So you can reach back out to that company and say, I didn't find who I was looking for, or you can even submit more inquiries to other companies. So don't worry, doesn't have to really be the one today, but we hope it is. So this week isn't about finding an assistant or a virtual assistant. This week is about finding the right VA for you. Okay, so keep that in mind. They should be the right virtual assistant for you, not just a really good one, the right one. Okay. All right. So here's a little bonus that I want to include in here. Here are some things that I do when I'm interviewing people. So this can kind of give you an idea of where to go off from, especially if this is your first hire and you feel a little like anxious about this whole process. Watch this. Let me just totally relax you about this whole interview process because I love interviews. In fact, I do it full time by literally traveling to national parks and interviewing people in the parks for a podcast I create. So went to school for journalism, love interviewing for jobs. I've been a store manager before, love it. So let me tell you some quick little things. So you know I'm a little quirky. Probably by now you've kind of gotten that gist. And so I really like to get to know who they are and make them really comfortable. I actually call the interview a conversation. I say, I know that this is an interview, but it's really just more of a conversation to get to know you so that you can get to know me, so that you can see if this is right for you and so I can see if this is right for me. And also just to get to know each other and have fun and it's just a conversation. All right, so that kind of defuses some of the nerves. And guys, when I was actually interviewing people as a store manager for an escape room, I would literally pull out 2 coloring books and I would have them color with me. And so it would really defuse some of that anxiety they had going on. They'd be, looking down at that. We'd be coloring together on the same level. Guys, I have done all sorts of fun stuff during interviews because I just love them. But also, you probably won't be able to color with your new hire or your candidate, but there are some really fun things that you can do to get to know them. Make sure that they know it's just a conversation. Ask them about themselves, but also tell them about you. Give them some fun facts about you, some interesting hobbies that you have, and then ask them about themselves before you jump right into the details of the position, which can be nerve-wracking and it might not actually tell you who they are, how they work, and how they communicate. So it's a good way to get to know them. And then an important thing to do is asking them about previous projects they've worked on with other clients, and what they enjoy doing. And ask them what their strengths are, what they actually see themselves good at, what their skill set is. So I would also recommend getting as specific as possible about the projects that you're going to be having them do. I've kind of covered that, but make sure that after you get to know them and it's real feel good and it's real nice, make sure you're telling them what you actually expect out of this position for them. Get really specific about the projects, what software you're going to be using, and what your turnaround times look like and what your vision is for that. And so it'll help you both gauge whether or not this is the right position for them, whether they're a good fit, but it also might give them an opportunity to give you some ideas or tell you how they can see you doing it better. They might actually have experience doing exactly what this is and might have some ideas for how you can make it better. Possibly. So make sure that you refer back to your preference list and also your interview prep guide. This will really make sure that even though you're having a great conversation, you're also checking off whether or not they meet your needs. And I would do a little gut check if I were you, to see if you really like them, if it feels right. But I would also keep in mind to balance them being a nice person and a fun conversationalist with what their skill sets are, what their turnaround time is, how their recommendations are. I would maybe even ask for recommendations to see what those look like, what the quality of work is for them. I would balance all of that with whether or not you like to work with them, because that's really important if you want to have an ongoing relationship, with liking them as a person and making sure that they communicate really easily, but also what their skill sets are, what their level of work is really, obviously, very important to this job. And do you have any interview questions of your own? Any interview tips that you want to share with us? We would actually love to hear them and add it to our interview question bank and interview tip bank, so that we can tell other people about that as well. So let us know if you have any feedback about that, any tips about it. Just email us hello@timerich@gmail.com. hello.timerich@gmail.com. Ooh, second one, not the first one. And don't forget to join us, as always, for our Q&A call today at noon Central Standard Time. We would love to answer any questions you have, discuss this further, help you catch up to where we are now. Anything, just let us know. We'd love to talk to you, and see you then. I'll see you guys later.